What is going on, traders? It's Johnny here with Trader X. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel. It really means a lot to us, and I hope you guys are all having a beautiful Monday today. But as usual, I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a recap and let you know how my day trading did go. And so as you guys can see on the screen, today was a small green day in terms of my trading. I was up $16.97 on ticker symbol TQQQ, and I was up $21.65 on ticker symbol SQQQ. And these are my field orders. You guys can see the timestamps on the left. So I was trading from 6:34 and I ended trading at 7:07, right? And my prices are here on the right where I bought and sold, and the ticker that I was trading is right here in the middle for you guys. And then the quantity is here on the left as well if you guys do want to take a look at that. But I'm going to go ahead and get right into the recap. So today I was up $38 and some change, right? And I actually, if you guys take a look at the trades I did not average up at all today. So I was strictly trading with $2,500, right? That's 25% of my position size. And I didn't once average up, and it mainly had to do with the choppiness that I felt the market had today. And so what we currently are looking at is a NASDAQ future, right, on the 1 day, 1 minute chart. And what you guys will notice is the NASDAQ was trading pre-market, right, between the top and bottom VWAP. And then it ultimately did start an uptrend before it, peaked out and began to pull on back. And so right at market open, it's when you see these increase in volume bars here on the bottom. And so this thing started a downtrend, right, sell off after peaking out. It started to make these lower highs and lower lows. And ultimately at market open, what we saw was this thing tried pushing up for a second and then got rejected by the middle VWAP and started to trend down, right? And so as I started to see this thing aggressively sell off due to the, increase in volume at market open, I decided to get into the inverse ETF, SQQQ. And so as I bought in with $2,500, this thing started to sell off and I sold it a bit prematurely, right? Probably right around this area, around 12,390. And this thing ended up selling off, as you guys know, to 12,358. And then as this thing formed a support, it actually bounced, right? And changed direction very quickly. And once it broke above the EMA, I actually got into ticker symbol TQQQ. And it was able to pop up to the middle VWAP really quickly, a lot quicker than I anticipated. So I just decided to cut the trade there. And then ultimately, my third trade of the day was a red trade. So as this thing picked up super fast, I cut my shares, and as it pulled back onto the EMA, I bought back in a TQQQ, expecting this thing to start to change direction and continue to uptrend. But that's not what we saw, right? This thing ended up breaking below EMA again, as you guys can see. So I cut my losses there, did a good job of managing my risk. And then ultimately, I decided to get back in as the NASDAQ approached the bottom VWAP again. So what you guys will notice is it started a downtrend and it was getting rejected by the EMA line. And once it approached the bottom VWAP, I decided to send a TQQQ play. And as it popped up very quickly to the EMA, right, it actually did it very quickly, if I remember correctly. So I decided to cut the trade there again because there's always a chance it could get rejected by the EMA line like it did. Ultimately ended up doing, right, and sold off very aggressively. So I did a good job of really cutting my trades where I thought were smart points, where it wasn't too much of a good deal anymore. And so that's ultimately how I was able to make money both on SQs and TQs today. And after this one trade that I took here, once the market started to sell off and it changed direction, I was pretty much just watching it aggressively. I wasn't really, trying to force any trades, and this thing would change direction very quick, right? As you guys can see, for example, here, it would break below the EMA, break back above it, break below it, break back above it. So I started seeing this choppiness and I decided to walk away because it probably wouldn't have been in my best interest to continue trading. I didn't feel like the market had a very clear direction today, right? It was kind of trading all over the place, finding supports and resistance levels at areas that didn't make sense to me. And given the fact that I was up on the day, I decided to call it there and walk away. And so that is something very important that traders should keep in mind. When the patterns aren't necessarily there, right? And it's very choppy and you keep getting stopped out of trades, that's probably a good indication that you should stop trading and walk away, maybe set alerts, at critical points, and then come back once those alerts are, pretty much they alert you that they happen. But until then, it's pretty much you're wasting your time just by trying to trade patterns that aren't necessarily the most consistent, right? And what I mean by consistent is this thing was changing directions very aggressively today, but if you guys notice, for example, pre-market, this thing was uptrending, right? Using the EMA line to make these higher highs and higher lows before it became overextended and corrected itself at these levels, right? So that's mainly what I wanted to look out for. Today I was trying to buy in at points I felt made sense and that were in my favor, and that's ultimately what ended up happening, right? So obviously on days like today there's still money to be made. It's not like it's absolutely impossible. What you could have seen was there was an aggressive bounce here, right? The Nasdaq bounced twice right around these areas. So once it did approach these general areas, right closer to the bottom VWAP, you could get into TQQQ and sell it closer to the middle VWAP, right? So that's typically like how I would approach a day like today that's very choppy, but like I mentioned, trading in choppiness is just so much harder and so much more emotionally stressful because of the fact that the trades aren't, or they're just all over the place, right? They're switching direction constantly and constantly just bouncing and finding supports and resistance levels at almost random areas to me, right? And so that's ultimately why I decided to walk away today and stop trading, and I think it ended up helping me because I feel like I definitely would have lost some money on lots of this choppiness and consolidation that it had, right? Closer to the middle VWAP and bottom VWAP. And so heading into tomorrow, what am I, looking out for? Well, if we take a look on the bigger time frames for the Nasdaq, what we'll notice is it has been acting bullish the past, week or so. We have been seeing these higher highs and higher lows, and so are at more of a support area right now. So what I need to see is if we are going to continue to uptrend, we and form this higher high, or if we're actually going to start to change direction and downtrend again, right? So for example, the past 180 days of the Nasdaq were obviously been very bearish, right? And typically, as it approaches these general areas, right, closer to the SMA line, it did end up getting rejected, like we saw. It would push up, consolidate, get rejected, push up, consolidate, rejected, push up, consolidate, rejected. So this was the first time that we did finally, break above the SMA and form higher highs. So that is a good sign, but we still have plenty to go before we're actually, in a bullish market again. So what you guys will notice if you take an even bigger step back is the past 3 years, right? The Nasdaq. So what it will do is it'll have some form of correction after becoming overextended, right? And this could be due to bad news and negative catalysts that drive the price down. And what I'm ultimately waiting for is the Nasdaq to break above the EMA line. So as you guys could see, it briefly did it, right? I believe last week. But what I want to ultimately see is this thing to break above the EMA and hold like it did here. So on the larger time frame, once this thing broke above the EMA, it started to use it as a support, right? It would tend to fall but then bounce back up, fall, bounce back up, fall, bounce back up, right? So it was riding the EMA line up. It's exactly what we're doing the opposite of now, right? So this thing broke below the EMA and would get push up, get rejected, push up, get rejected. And so I do have to keep in mind that this thing has previously broken above the EMA and ended up selling off aggressively. So how I'm gonna approach it is once this thing breaks above the EMA again, the previous resistance where it was at, I'm gonna buy more Tesla shares because as you guys know, the Nasdaq market heavily influences the way Tesla trades, right? So I want to buy, as you guys can see, I only have 2 shares of Tesla right now, right? I got them at an average price of 663, so I'm up $274 on the open just off having those 2 shares. And it did lose me $32 on the day today. So what I am gonna wait for is the Nasdaq to break above the EMA and start indicating signs of an uptrend, right? Where it starts to use it as a support. Once I start to see that, I'm gonna go ahead and load up on Tesla with an additional maybe 10, 15 shares, all depending on how comfortable I feel holding that much in the market overnight. And so as this thing starts to indicate signs of an uptrend, I'm going to add to my Tesla position. And only if once this thing breaks below the EMA am I going to decide to reduce my position size, right? Because it very well can push up the EMA and sell off and make a lower low like it did here. So as this thing breaks above the EMA, I'm going to try to make sure it holds. And if it does break below the EMA again and start a break pattern, then I'm going to have to do my part in reducing my position size again on Tesla, right? But at the moment, I'm only in with 2 shares. I will definitely keep you guys posted as far as when I decide to average up into Tesla. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. I hope you guys found it informative and learned something new. If you guys are new to the channel, I really do appreciate if you guys drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out a lot, and we really appreciate every single one of you. But other than that, I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I hope you guys tune into that. And I hope you guys are all have a good rest of your day. Take care.